PUP. We're going to rank the albums, the entire discography, which is not a massive discography, of my favorite band of all time, PUP. Canadian pop punk band, Toronto, you know the deal. PUP is an amazing band. A lot of people probably feel this way, but it's like they wrote the soundtrack to my teenage years. Just always hold this band so close to my heart. Huge influence on my own music career and my own attitude towards making music, and nobody cares. PUP. Let's start with this. We're going to do this in order, by the way. Starting with their self-titled debut. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but it's amazing. For a self-titled debut record, this is iconic. We got Reservoir, which is so sick, along with Mabu. Those are two songs that really feel like what PUP became. They're two tracks that really feel like a good forecast of the band. I just said that twice. But that makes sense because they're so unbelievably strong, and they're just the ones that stand out to me. Lionheart's good too. This is my most controversial take, but I'm not a huge fan of Dark Days. I realize it's a classic song, and I know that it's a very, very good song by every metric. It just feels too poppy and kind of clean for this record, or for anything PUP's done. It's a little bit too radio friendly. I'm very pretentious. I'm sorry. I'm wearing a beanie inside, not for this video, just because I do that. I'm a very pretentious guy when it comes to music. All that being said, I never skip this song when it comes on. I within a minute, I'm like belting the lyrics, top of my lungs. It's very catchy. PUP writes some very catchy songs, and they delivered some unbelievable stuff here. On their self-titled debut, just came out of the gates, just, it's unforgettable. Except, I sometimes forget what's on it, which is the only weakness here that I can think of. This album has some songs that are just sort of forgettable for whatever reason. They're great songs, but I mean, I rarely listen to like Yukon or like Cul-de-sac. I can't even remember Factories. Like, there's just some forgettable ones. Doesn't mean they're not good. Overall, it feels like PUP is really finding their footing here. And as unbelievably cool as this music is, there are just moments that don't feel like the PUP that we all came to adore. It's not our PUP. My favorite here is Guilt Trip. Like a lot of people, this is the first PUP song I ever heard, and it's been just close to my heart ever since. The album is just a fantastic debut for Topanga, who just became PUP. Remember, it's 2014. And it changed the scene forever. It changed, like, my life forever, irreversibly. It's amazing. I'm going to put it right here. It's a very good album. Okay, The Dream Is Over. This is PUP in their prime, doing what they do best. Everything comes together so well, and it's like the best of both worlds, with the melodic, catchy hooks and the high energy, honest, raw nature of the instrumentals and the lyrics. So everything, every song is memorable. If this tour doesn't kill you, then I will is a perfect opener to an album like this. It's a funny track, but it's so unbelievably catchy and showcases all the angles of PUP really, really well, and in like this neatly packaged thing. Then leads right into DVP, of course, which is one of the most iconic PUP tracks, if not the most iconic. Sleep in the Heat is ridiculously good, too. Has that element of that some PUP songs have, which is like, it gives me just like unbelievable chills every time I hear it. Every time I hear, "You're not waking up." For me, the only weak moment on this whole album is The Coast. It's a really cool track, and I like it a lot, but I don't love the vibes here, I guess. And I think what few weak spots this track has became strengths on the only other like downer track on the album, Pine Point. It's more catchy, it's more intricate, it's more emotional. In my opinion, it's better, and I feel like they nailed what they were trying to accomplish on The Coast with Pine Point. Favorites for me are Familiar Patterns, which I feel like is a little bit of an overlooked PUP track, and My Life Is Over and I Couldn't Be Happier, which may be my favorite PUP song for some reason. I feel like they just encapsulate everything I love about this band as musicians and them as human beings. This record's iconic, and there's nothing I wish was slightly different about it at all. That means S tier. Obviously. Come on. Then we got Morbid Stuff. When Morbid Stuff came out, or was about to come out, I was sort of scared in a way. I was like a little bit bummed for a minute that my favorite band was potentially undergoing some kind of a transition, moving into a new area, and the fact that the two singles ahead of the release were ridiculously good, it didn't really change anything. It just felt like, okay, well, that's the best that we're going to get from the album, which would have been fine. But I was so wrong. I really thought the standout tracks were just going to be Kids and Free at Last. But there wasn't a track on this record that I would have improved or changed in any way. I was very surprised that was my opinion of it when it came out. It's such an important part of PUP's career, because when it came down to it, they were able to just knock it out of the park and blow people's minds once again. But this time with the pressure of people, anticipating their music and just having more eyes on them. I was very happy. It was a very happy time for me when PUP released that. It may feel different from Dream Is Over in the sense that it's a bit more traditional pop punk, and the production is really good. But that takes nothing away from this. They're as original as ever. And the production, I feel, actually serves the music really well here, I think. When a band is this good at being grimy and distorted, that sort of like pristine production that feels kind of minimal and clean, complements the music. It doesn't take anything away from it, in my opinion, and sort of helps you hear it as it was meant to be heard, or at least as the band heard it in their heads. Kids is ridiculously good. The lyrics are so strong. Just like the Kids, I've been navigating my way through the mind-numbing reality of a godless existence, which, at this point in my hollow and vapid life, has erased what little ambition I've got left. It's so good. And then the lyrics after the chorus on the second verse are equally as good, but for a totally different reason. They're like classic Stefan PUP lyrics. That's what this album does really well. It just like the last album, combines both things PUP is really good at, and just so catchy too. I just really feel like Stefan's in his element here, just like he was on the last record. Title track is unforgettable for me, and it just felt so different from anything they'd done up to that point, while still retaining the complex and impressive instrumentation. So good. A standout track for me is Scorpion Hill. It's like a musical masterpiece. All the lyrics are so good. The lyrics on this record are really good, which we're not really used to from PUP. I wish Stefan wrote more songs like this, more like linear, like story narrative songs. This is an amazing song. It's so insanely emotional. It punches you in the gut and you just want to die. This is so stupid. But a little bit ashamed to admit, there have been plenty of times where I've totally just teared up listening to Scorpion Hill. There's a picture of my kid. Yeah, he's smiling. It's the first day of school. In the context of that whole song and all the lyrics, and just more head-to-toe chills from PUP. I tell you my favorite tracks here, but I don't have any. I can never choose. When I throw this on, I still listen to every single track. I don't skip anything. There's no weak point. I think a lot of people would say that the weak point on this album is City, because it stands out in ways that I think people might argue are not as strong. I like it. Sorry. Even if I had the ability, I would not change a single thing on this album. And I'm so happy we got another iconic, incredible album after an iconic, unforgettable, incredible album. Anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. That means S tier again. Then we got the Unraveling of PUPTheBand. I got a lot to say about this album. It's the weakest album. I mean, obviously, it's the weakest album we've got from PUP. Aside from these reoccurring, funny statements about the industry and stuff, there are some like really dark tones here and existential moments that's cool. They don't make you feel too good, but they shouldn't have to. My problem with this album is it kind of feels like PUP is aging out of the fast-paced, high-energy, explosive, raw style that they perfected, and hiding that fact by masking everything with blown-out and unnecessarily distorted instrumentals and vocals. I weirdly just kind of don't like it. Everything about this record is just more. It's just more. It's too much. If you look at these songs, they feel like they're simpler, but because of the layering and the production, in some spots the lack of production, and in a lot of spots the massive overproduction of these tracks, they sound way too complex. These simple songs sound way too complex to be pulled off properly. And Stefan's vocals are just buried beneath it all, like just underneath everything. I feel like an old man listening to this where I'm like, huh? And it's depressing. However, one track where this I feel like works sort of in their favor a little bit is Robot Writes a Love Song. The energy they brought on this album actually kind of helps PUP experiment, which I like, and evolve in a cool way. It wasn't happening. And on paper, Robot should be like this cute, poppy, radio-friendly song that your grandma would like. But instead, it just feels like PUP, which is so cool. It's not supposed to work, but it works because the production serves the song, I feel. in a way that it didn't serve the other tracks, or most of the other tracks at least. But I really feel like the production spoils this album. A great example for me personally of this is on Grim Reaping, which is a track that for me I feel like it had so much potential. It could have been so sick if it weren't for the problems that I've been mentioning. It could have been a really cool like direction for PUP and for like Stefan's echoey vocal. It could have been a like a noise punk track, which would have been like, they could have made like a Mets track. That would have been so, I would have loved that. But the result of the way they approach this sounds like a well-produced demo for a song instead of what it is, which is in truth a poorly produced song that feels like sort of lazy to me a little bit. Overall, it's just the whole thing is blown out and chaotic sounding, which sounds good in theory, but the production seems to ruin the whole idea. Totally Fine kind of did it well. Totally Fine sounds like a natural evolution for PUP, and I would have been stoked if the whole album sounded like that. But I am glad that they they moved in a couple different directions. But Totally Fine is awesome. It's totally fine. I saw PUP last June back home in Toronto, and Totally Fine translated incredibly well to the stage. It was such a killer live track, such a killer track in general. It's a song that felt like with some minor tweaks could have fit perfectly on The Dream Is Over. Maybe that's why I like it so much, because it's like a time capsule back to a better time, but still feels new. If PUP wants to make a record that is more noisy, complex, and more chaotic than past releases, I am stoked about that. I want that to happen instantly. But that's far from what we actually got on this album. Maybe the production was meant to make it feel more raw and real, but it did the exact opposite for me. And less catchy than anything PUP's ever done. Some exceptions, though, being the choruses on Robot Writes a Love Song and Matilda. The first line of the Matilda chorus is so catchy. So emo, too. Overall, these songs are not as memorable, or, they don't hold up. They're not of the same quality as stuff we've got in the past. And that's fine. They can't all be home runs. As time passes, we may look back fondly on the standout tracks on this album and totally forget the others. Kind of like we do on their debut. But that kind of sucks because Dream Is Over and Morbid Stuff had virtually no skips, no forgettable moments, and they were just fantastic records beginning to end. That's a bar that's very high. That's like an unattainable, like they can't keep jumping and hitting the ceiling. I get it, and I would love to see PUP move into some new areas. That's great. I mean, they're getting older. They've progressed musically, obviously, over the years spent writing and recording and touring. If they want to move in a new direction, I'm all for that, obviously. As any fan of any band should be. Progression in music is good. It's necessary. I just hope the next thing we get from them is something that'll blow our minds again, because that's a great feeling. I definitely prefer the less popular PUP songs on previous albums, but for me, the standout songs on this album were the high points. I wanted to love the cool, weird tracks, but they were not executed as well as I felt they could have been. And the standout tracks are really cool. So my favorites, most people's favorites, are Totally Fine, Waiting, just because it felt like PUP, like true PUP, and Matilda. Also, not that it matters much in the end, but I hated that cover art. Anyways, it sounds like I'm hating on this album. I'm not. It still was one of my favorite albums of the year. It's fantastic. I listen to it all the time. But I'm just being objective. I'm looking at their whole discography and contrasting it with that. And how do you beat Dream Is Over and Morbid Stuff? You can't. They're amazing. So, anyways, PUP is my favorite band. They're worthy of all the love in the world. They do certain things so well. I think the thing they're great at in general is using, complex instrumentation and making it sound so enjoyable and pleasing to listen to. I'm a huge fan of math rock, for example, and the ratio of like memorable tracks from math rock bands to forgettable ones is so different. Because in genres like that, it's very hard for people to make complex songs catchy and sound good and enjoyable to listen to. Polyphia, for example. I don't like Polyphia. But yeah, stuff like that. Not a lot of bands can do that. I think, since I mentioned math rock, This Town Needs Guns that's one of my other favorite bands. This Town Needs Guns can do it in that genre. PUP is doing it in this genre, in the pop punk genre. And there's nobody like them. They're so original still. And I just tend to love everything they do. So I'm putting this album here. A lot of things that could have been improved, I think, or done better. But I love it. I wish that I could sound a little bit less like just a fanboy of a band. I wish that I could be more critical and, you know, and mean when it comes to music, but they're great. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Let me know what you think. Obviously, this is all open to, you know, this is all subjective, and these are just my opinions. But tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm a stupid idiot in the comments. Let me know if I'm dumb. And please subscribe. Hey, if you like PUP, I did a while back, I did a acoustic PUP covers live stream. I took the audio from that, put it on YouTube. It's called PUP Stream. I'm going to link it here. I realize PUP is not meant to be played acoustic, but if you need something to fall asleep to at night. Anyways, thanks for watching. This was very fun. This is the most fun I've had making a video in a long time. I'll see you soon. Love you.